Welcome into the latest edition of the Stealing with the Boys podcast. I'm your host, Junnie Riddle, here along with my boys,
Jawuan Williams
and Coach Campbell.
Guys, this is our third episode on YouTube. Like us, subscribe to us, follow us on TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, all the socials, all the podcast platforms. If you just want to listen to the audio, you can find us absolutely anywhere. And also, shout out to Jawuan, man. Jawuan has been making these shorts and posting them on all of our platforms of just, quick segments that we do. He's doing a killer job. I mean, these are some really good videos. How many views did you say we've gotten so far? A couple thousand?
Yeah, 2K on the reels on YouTube and 2K on Instagram and TikTok.
Man, that's a start.
Yeah, that's a start.
That's a start. So shout out to Jawuan for doing that.
Actually.
But I mean, listen, making content, we're trying to up the ante this year. We're going video, we're upping the production, we got everything going for you. And again, with the Steelers and how they're playing, now 2-0, going into Denver, looked really good in the first half, not so hot in the second, but hey, 2-0 is 2-0. Jawuan, I want to start with you. You were there in Denver.
Yep.
This is a game that we all wanted to go to, but you made it happen. You and your pops, who, by the way, if you don't know anything about Jawuan's pops, this man is a diehard Steelers fan. One of the best in the business. We're gonna have to have him on eventually. But tell us how it was. How was it being out there with the fam? What was the stadium like? What were Broncos fans like? Give us the layout of what it was like being out there.
It was definitely a cool experience. This is my first time in Denver, so being there, I didn't know what to think of, but when I was there, I was like, it's like a cool city.
Yeah.
And going into the game, you would think it's way different than the Atlanta game. Atlanta was 60-40. Here, it was more Broncos fans. Like, they showed up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was oranged out. But still fans are still there.
What would you say the ratio was, if you had to just estimate?
Probably 70-30.
Really? Even then?
Yeah, that's wild.
I know, but even then, 30% in Denver, I'd say that's pretty
Steelers
good.
fans show out everywhere we go. So,
Yeah.
And then
every
another
away
week,
game.
another week of giving out towels.
That's a
week before it was flags. Second week towels.
Because Atlanta didn't have that back in 2022 when we went in there and played in the regular season. They passed out these big white flags just to try and, tone out the terrible towels. Did not work. So you're telling me Denver tried to do the same thing?
Yeah, it was the same outcome. Like, it started out like it was orange flags everywhere.
As the game went on?
They really left. Yeah.
That's great. That is great.
But all in all, like I said, the first half looked really good. I thought the offense moved the ball. I thought Justin Fields was putting the ball on the money on some deep throws. Second half, didn't they? What did they have? Like 60, 70 yards, something on offense total. Did not move the ball whatsoever. It just kind of seemed like they were, trying to hang on for dear life, kind of knowing that Denver's offense wasn't going to do much. But Trey, I'm going to start with you on kind of, you got a lot of notes over there. What were some of the takeaways that you saw? We were watching the game at my house while Jawuan was enjoying it in person, but what were some takeaways that you had on the field that, fans need to know? What did you see?
So, again, our defense is a top 3 defense in the league. I would put us definitely top 3. I think we can finish the year top 1. They could not move the ball. A rookie quarterback, Bo Nix, couldn't get the ball down the field. A lot of check down. He was a check down merchant. So shout out to our defense, our secondary. I feel like we have depth everywhere on our defense, and it's just like it shows. Like one person can go out. Like Corey Trice had a pick in this game. Dante Jackson was out for a couple plays. Corey Trice played well. We have depth on the D-line, outside backers, like everywhere. So this defense is probably one of the best defenses I've seen as a Steelers fan, probably since like 2010. That's what I would say.
I asked. That's one thing when I was at the game. I asked my dad. I was like, so when was the last time that this defense actually looked this good? He was like, yeah, it's been since the Super Bowl.
Yeah, probably since 2010.
Not even 19. I feel like the 2019 defense doesn't get enough credit. Like with Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges, like that defense was pretty nasty.
No, I think they were nasty, but I think this team, like, you have a star on each level, at least one star on each level. Like, You have T.J. Watt, outside backer, alongside alongside Alex Highsmith. Then you have Patrick Queen and a rookie who is going to be a baller, and Peyton Wilson. Then you have the secondary. I think the difference between the 19 and this year's would be the secondary. The secondary is just
because that was the year they went out and got Minka, and they still had Joe Hayden, but
Joe Hayden was towards the end of his career.
He still had five interceptions.
No, he
year.
played well, but who was the opposite corner?
Ooh,
you see that? And that's my point.
Was it Levi?
No, it wasn't Levi at that time. Oh man, who was the other side?
But that's my point.
It doesn't matter. And now that I'm sitting here thinking about it, inside linebacker has always been a huge gap since Shazier went down. So again, even though that defense performed really well, I guess y'all are right. I mean, so far what we have seen, this defense, I would consider. I mean, I think there's an argument right now that you could say that they are the number one defense in the NFL.
Oh no, 100%.
They are fifth in total defense, which total defense is yards allowed. And they're number one in takeaways. So I think if you kind of combine those two and the fact that they were, really playing prevent and allowing kind of chunk yardage and stuff like that, they weren't trying to allow a touchdown at the end of the game of the Falcons. So, they're playing prevent defense. Falcons are driving down the field. Same thing with the Broncos, just getting a bunch of, air yards for nothing because they just didn't want to get beat deep. So, I mean, honestly, if they played to their full potential and the game was closer and they were trying to prevent a field goal, I mean, you're talking about maybe being the number one defense not only in takeaways but in total yards in general. So I think that that's a bright spot. But the big question going into, and I think this is where some of us are going to disagree, is about the offense. I think the offense looked really, really good. I think Justin Fields looked amazing. Everybody was doing their job in the first half, but in the second half, it just wasn't it. So what were some of your takeaways on the offensive side of the ball? What were you kind of seeing, Jawuan, with this team? What was the difference in the first half and second half? And since you were actually there, is the hype around the altitude real? Is it real?
Yeah. Well, one thing is you definitely need water.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I definitely. I had a beer. But then
you weren't drinking like you were in Atlanta?
I wasn't drinking like I was in Atlanta. But so Fields, I thought, played pretty good, especially in the first half. First half, my main thing was I wanted to see Fields solidify his position, solidify the starting job. And down the line, I think that touchdown drive, really the first half, I think he played real good. Now, my favorite thing, and I've been saying this since last year, we finally know how to use Washington. Darnell Washington was my person that I wanted, especially with Matt Canada, but we didn't use him with Matt Canada. And I was like, he's 6'8". Why not use him with Matt Canada?
What I want to jump in real quick. What I liked about that, what Arthur Smith did in that whole, in the red zone, he started him at tight end and flexed him out. So that alone makes the defense be like, oh shit, like who am I putting out on him? So they just adjusted. I guess they were a man. If not, they changed the man, and then they put a safety on him. Like no safety.
Yeah. And also he was out there with Pat Freiermuth. Freiermuth goes inside. He kind of goes towards the outside in the fade ball, going towards the sideline, and Justin Fields throws it right on him. And I mean, nobody, it was 1-on-1. There was no way the defender could have made a play on the ball.
That's what I'm saying. That's the stuff I want to see Arthur Smith do more of. And you don't even have to just do that in the red zone. Like you can do that for a chunk gain back in your own, back in your side of the field. And another thing I wanted to say about the first half was it could have been a lot better, but penalties were a huge thing.
That was the biggest thing. The whole thing.
I feel like of both games that we played, our offense, we had these terrible penalties, get us behind the sticks, and then you're handcuffed to a play call or a passing play, which is not you want to be able to be balanced with this offense, especially with Justin Fields. You want to be able to run play action. Play action isn't going to work if you have 2nd and 10 every time. 3rd and 10 every time, 3rd and 20 every time from holding calls. So I feel like this offense performed a lot better than what you will see in the stat sheet, things like that in the first half. Justin Fields, personally, the first half, I think Justin Fields played almost flawlessly. If it wasn't for penalties, I feel like they would have kept moving the ball, would have scored more points, would have scored more touchdowns. But the first half, I believe, I don't know what you all think, but I believe it was pretty flawlessly by the offense. Play calling was good. The only thing was those penalties.
That's
Those penalties
the
killed
biggest
us.
thing, because let me just point this out. Now this is a bold take that I'm about to say.
All right, buckle up.
GP, George Pickens, is a top 5 receiver. He has, now this is why I'm saying this, he has outplayed the number 1 and number 2 highest paid corners in the league. Now,
Is AJ Terrell really paid that much?
yeah.
I actually didn't
I
know
think
he
he's
was
like
paid
top
that much.
5, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't get me wrong.
He's up
I'm not.
there,
I'm not disrespecting AJ Terrell. I know that he is a really good corner, underrated. I didn't know he was paid to that magnitude.
Yeah, he's paid like that. And then you got Patrick Surtain, who is the top, the highest paid corner in the league.
Just got paid.
Just got paid. Do you know if the penalties didn't happen, George Pickens would have 4 receptions, 86 yards, and a touchdown. He really could have had 100 yards if the penalties, because the only play that I keep on replaying in my head is the 51-yard bomb.
That might have been the best throw I've seen a Steelers quarterback make probably in almost a decade.
Since been in AB.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
I would
agree
say
with
that since been in AB.
But even then, like Big Ben, towards the tail end of his time with him and AB, wasn't fully running and throwing a 50-yard dot running full speed from an edge rusher. And that's the thing about Denver's edge rushers. And we mentioned this in the previous episode, is that they're not big physical guys, they're speed guys. So when Fields is rolling out to his right, and this guy, I think it was Cooper that was trying to hawk. I mean, this is a fast edge rusher. So he's running, trying not to get hit. And to throw a dot on the run like that, I mean, that's just different. Again, Ben's placement with AB was freaky. But again, Big Ben at that moment in time wasn't the Big Ben that we saw early in his career, moving around, making plays, throwing on the run. Like, I have not seen a Steelers quarterback make a play like that in a very, very long time. But we keep bringing up the same thing over and over again. We keep talking about penalties, right? And so I think this kind of ties into Broderick Jones and how he had those 3 big, costly penalties. The holding call on that play in particular, derailed. You could argue that would have set up a touchdown. I think, many people in the media have come out and talked about the whole Van Jefferson offensive pass interference wasn't a good call.
I feel like
it was
that
more
was
the defender's fault.
Like you can't really.
The media literally, like Dan Orlovsky was like, that should be a touchdown for the Steelers.
The point of the matter is, fellas, is that you could argue they should have put up at least 17, if not 21 points in the first half.
Oh yeah,
and it could have completely kind of put the game away, especially with what Denver was, the limited things that they were able to do against our defense. So with this and how good the offense did look in the first half, and then it kind of came back down in the second half, let's get into the big conversation of the week here. Justin Fields is 2-0 as the Steelers starting quarterback. He's had some really good plays, and then some plays have been okay. Now, I wouldn't say he's had an awful play. I think he's played well enough to be in consideration for the starting lineup, to be the starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But when Russ gets healthy, and he's not healthy yet, and he's not going to play this week against the Chargers for the home opener, who do the Steelers go with? And Jawuan, I know that you feel very strongly about this, and I want to go to you first.
Okay. So, my pick is Justin Fields.
Hands down, no questions. If Russ is fully healthy with what you've seen with
yes,
Fields,
we're winning. Why mess up something that's good? We're winning. He's not doing nothing bad. He's doing everything that he needs to do for us to win the game. He's not having turnovers. He's not fumbling, which everybody's seen. Like, that was a big case with him
in the preseason, for sure.
Preseason, even when he was with Chicago, he was a fumbler. My thing is, if we're going in the right direction with Fields, we see the offense is getting more comfortable with Fields. I just think if you add on Russ to this now, it's gonna kind of mess up everything because let's just say that Russ comes and starts.
Mm-hmm.
He comes and starts his first game, and we lose. As soon as we lose, or even if he throws a pick, well, they're gonna say Justin Fields hasn't thrown the pick yet. You came in. I mean, I understand that you're the vet. You came in, and now you throw a pick. Let's get Justin Fields back. Why are we wasting my time with you?
Okay.
I'll jump in. I'll give you my input on this. Okay. So, yes, I think Justin Fields has been playing well. He's won 2 games for us. He hasn't turned the ball over. He hasn't done those things. In a world where we did not get Russell Wilson and pretty much solidify him as our starter, I'd say ride with Justin Fields. But the way I'm looking at it and the way I know the Steelers kind of do things, how Mike Tomlin does things, somebody usually doesn't lose their starting position to an injury.
I'm gonna stop you real quick, and here's why. The question isn't what you think the Steelers are going to do. I want to know what you think they should do.
I'll tell you exactly what
Is it the same?
It's pretty much the same as the Steelers.
Okay.
So what I think is, unless Justin Fields goes out there and against a really good Chargers defense and just lights it up, scores 3 touchdowns, throws for 250 plus, maybe rushes for a touchdown, whatever. If he goes out there and lights it up, I think you have to keep rocking with him. If he has another performance just a good enough performance, wins us a game by 3, if Russ is fully healthy the following week, I think you start Russ. And the reason I say this, guys, before you overreact, Jawuan, I know you're so passionate about Justin Fields. I think the Russell injury was kind of a blessing in disguise, and it's not.
Ooh, I like where you're going with this.
Not a blessing in disguise in the sense of him getting injured, but you got to see Justin Fields, who had flashes in Chicago. You got to see Justin Fields. Okay, you got to see what he has, the potential he has. You see those crazy throws he makes, the runs he makes, the third down, run for a first down. You see all that, but the blessing in disguise comes that you got to see that. You can go to Russ. If Russ isn't good, doesn't play well his first game or doesn't play well his second game, whatever, you can go back to Justin. You already know what he has. You know how the offense needs to be ran through Justin. You can go back to him. Now, if it was the other way around, this is where it gets a little messy. If it was the other way around and Justin came in as a starter, or Russ started the first 2 games, won the first 2 games, say he lost this week, and we went to Justin, you can't go back to Russ. Justin being a young guy and being the guy that we think can be our future, you can go back to Justin, then just rock with Justin. Then, Russ is gone the following year. You stick with Russ or stick with Justin and rock out.
So I guess that leaves me to be the tiebreaker. Because both it seems like you're pretty passionate about it, and I feel like you're kind of coming from it from more of a logical standpoint. I feel like Jawuan is really excited about what he's seeing, what the future holds. And he kind of wants to keep going and progressing with Justin Fields. I think both of these are great arguments. But I'm going to have to lean towards Trey. And here's why. Guys, I really, really like what Justin Fields is doing.
So do I. Don't let it get it wrong.
As of right now, I feel like the offense is a little bit limited. Are we winning because of Justin Fields? Or are we winning because the offense is so conservative and they're not really giving him the opportunity to make the mistake that we're winning through the defense and how good the defense is in spite of what Justin Fields isn't doing? And so I'm not going to get a grasp of that until I see what Russ can do in this offense. I mean, if you ask anybody, and I want everybody to answer this question real quick, and then I'm going to kind of finish why I believe this. But who's the better passer of the football? Just strictly the passer of the football. Is it Russ or Justin?
Russ.
From right now, what we know.
Russ.
I'm going to say Russ.
Passer. Okay, you're looking at it.
I say Justin.
Be real.
Now,
no, seriously.
Okay, this is the reason why I'm saying Justin. The reason why is because let's go back to that 51-yard play. Now, the old Russ could do that. I don't think the new Russ, like the older Russ.
I saw on film in Denver last year.
Yeah, he made some
Russ
throws,
was
man.
throwing really good deep balls.
He has the deep ball.
So let me keep on finishing. So with that being said, just how Trey laid it out, and I think you laid it out well. If Justin Fields goes out against the Chargers, and the thing about this team and what everybody's been talking about, Arthur Smith says the dam is about to break for the offense. He genuinely believes that it's about to come together and it's about to explode. And that's what he believes. And the players are reiterating that to the media, which is something they would never do with Matt Canada. So if that is the truth, and Justin Fields goes out and just goes crazy in the home opener, we see a lot more passes, we see limited penalties, we see them, executing the offense. He has over 200 yards passing, a couple touchdowns, and you're like, oh, okay, this is what he really could be. Then I'm changing my tune. But from what I have seen, again, we have seen flashes, but it hasn't happened in the game. It hasn't happened in the real game. We can be like, well, penalties affected this, or the ref called this, and there was a lot of that between Atlanta and Denver. I'm not saying the officiating was great, but at the same time, it didn't happen. And until I see it happen, I can't not wonder what it could be with Russ. If they're with the slight inclination of if he goes in there and this offense just looks a little bit better and the passing game is just a little bit more fluid and the offense can move up and down the field and take advantage of these drives that we haven't capitalized on with this defense, that could be the difference between being a playoff team and a true Super Bowl contender. And until I see Justin Fields go for a couple touchdowns, continuously move the ball down the field, get in the red zone, I mean, how hard is it to get 20 points? I mean, a team gets roughly 10 possessions a game, roughly on average, okay? Some get 8, some get 12. Just depends on how the game goes. I want 4 scoring drives, 2 touchdowns, 2 field goals, at least get 20 points. I don't think that that's too much to ask for. And again, we're still early in the season. Things can change, but that's what I need to see. And until I see it, there's always going to be that what if in my head. What if it's better with Russ? We brought in Russ. Russ was supposed to be the starter. Russ is the veteran. Russ is the Super Bowl champion. Russ is the guy that's trying to revitalize his career. Justin Fields still has a long future ahead of him. Sitting him isn't going to hurt. Benching Russell Wilson, that's over. That's done and over, just like Trey said. I'm holding on to that what if with Russ until I see Justin do what eventually we think he can do. And that's why I feel that way.
And that's why I said it. It's not that I don't like what Justin's doing at all. And another thing is, I watched Tomlin Tuesday, and he was just saying, he's like, that's the style of play we are going to play to win those games. All right. He fully admitted they were being conservative. They were just trying to take care of the ball, let the defense take care of the game, and just get the win. Ugly wins are still wins. And that's the way I look at it. I mean,
and we would kill for that.
Yeah.
We would have killed for this last year when we're playing the Cardinals and the Patriots.
Exactly.
And losing, getting blasted by the Colts.
Win.
It's like, it doesn't matter if it's ugly. We talk about Tomlin games in a good sense when we're the underdogs and how he always seems to come out of nowhere and beat the teams we're not supposed to be. But on the same side, we also talk about Tomlin games when we're playing a team that we should blow out the water, and we don't. We need to be happy with the fact that we are getting dubs against teams that we're supposed to get dubs against. But at the same time, I feel like the offense can look better. And until Justin takes that step, and again, it's not all his fault. The receivers need to create separation. The line needs to block better. All these things are true. But until I see it all come together and him show that he can be a franchise quarterback and kind of get through some of those things, there's always going to be that thought in the back of my head that Russ could come in and do it better. And that's how I feel.
So, 2 things, right? One, let me ask you this question. So, if Justin, say Justin throws for 200 plus yards, 2 touchdowns.
Against the Chargers.
It's Chargers.
Changing my tune.
And we lose.
Well,
But does he have any turnovers,
No
fumbles?
turnovers. We lose.
We lose because the defense.
Are you still going to put Russ in?
If we lose because of defense.
If we lose because of the defense and we see Justin take a significant step on moving the ball and his passing numbers and his touchdown numbers, and we lose because the defense can't hold the Chargers, then
that's a defensive problem.
That's a defensive problem. That's
I
something
would
that
change
we'd
my
have to
two for
evaluate
that too. If he goes 200 plus, 2 touchdowns, and say he rushes for 1, yeah, I'm sticking with Justin.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, my second thing. So y'all saying that once Russ gets healthy, y'all want to see him out there, right?
Yes.
So let's go back to last year when Mason Rudolph was in and he was winning games. Kenny was healthy.
Yeah, but Kenny
we didn't go back. We didn't go back to
never
the
proved
but we saw Kenny that season.
But
we have not seen Russ, number one, in a Steelers uniform.
But
number
he
two,
was our starter.
this season.
He was our starter.
But was he doing anything?
He wasn't even
Was he doing
close to what
anything
Rudolph
crazy?
was doing last year.
Was he doing anything crazy?
That's the
man?
problem.
Isn't that like this? I think it's the same way.
I don't know, man, because I feel like Kenny wasn't showing anything. Like, he showed stuff in the preseason. We were all hyped about him in the preseason, but he wasn't showing anything crazy. He wasn't having any crazy stats. He threw for maybe 1 touchdown.
His fourth quarter comebacks was his claim to fame, and that was it.
Yeah, that was literally it. That was it. He had ice in his veins, but he had no ice in his veins the other 3 quarters.
And I think it's also hard to kind of compare those because I have Russ and Justin in a completely different stratosphere than any of the even Mason Rudolph. Mason Rudolph looked really good because he's been in the Steelers system and with these players for years. Like he's been sitting on the bench, but again, he knows the offense, he knows the personnel, and he had been there for so long that when he gets thrown in the mix, he's going to look good. But with these guys in their first year, I would say arguably that the offense is moving. Maybe not as well as Mason had it at the end of the year, but it's way better than it was in the beginning of the season last year with what Kenny Pickett was doing. That's a fact.
And another thing I wanted to touch on too, like our offense, like Tomlin said in his press, it's Tomlin Tuesday, he was saying they're being conservative. They might be saving a lot of the Justin stuff, like maybe even for this week. Like they knew those first 2 teams they could get by playing defense, doing well. The Chargers this week are hot and they have a good rush offense. Like, they're gonna have to score points, period, this week. So I think maybe they could be holding off on it too. Like, I mean, you said Arthur Smith said the dam's about to break down. It might just be because he's gonna call different plays for Justin Fields out there. So I am holding on to the, like I said, I'm holding on to trying to see Russ for a little bit, but if Justin goes out, like you said, those 2 touchdowns and 200 yards,
I'll even add on to this, and then after this, I think we should move on. But I'll even add on to this. If Justin had built upon what he did in the first half in the second half, my answer might be different.
I was just thinking that too.
But literally, I felt like that kind of brought me back in because, again, we were watching the game together. In the first half, I was like, my Lord, is he taking a step from the Falcons game to this game? It's exactly what I wanted to see. But then it kind of came back down. Again, is it all his fault? No, that's not what I'm saying. But at the same time, until we see a full, complete game and an offense that looks somewhat normal for an NFL standard for a full game, not just a first half, and not just a game where you get in the red zone and you don't capitalize on touchdowns like the Falcons game. That's when I'm going to go. But part of the reason Justin didn't look as good in this Denver Broncos game was the decision on behalf of Mike Tomlin and the coaching staff to rotate rookie first-round pick from this year, Troy Fautanu, who started the game, and rookie first-round pick tackle Broderick Jones, flipping them at right tackle. Now, Fautanu started the game and then finished the game, and he played outstanding. 0 pressures in the passing game, and I believe he only got
pass blocks.
I believe he only got beat on 1 run blocking snap. Like, he played out of his mind.
He had 0 sacks. Yeah, 29 pass
But the one drive that they put Broderick Jones in when they started the game and they started to rotate, he had 3 penalties. And again, going back to that huge 51-yarder, took that play off the board with what I would kind of classify as an unnecessary hold.
Yeah, I mean, and this is another thing, guys. In all my years of football, I have not seen you rotate like every series at, especially an offensive tackle position, an offensive line position. Like, that's just not something you do. Like, you might do that in like middle school football. High school, you rarely see that. So for them to even like test that out was a little. I questioned it right off the rip.
And Trey, you play college ball. You know, I only played high school, so I'm not trying to sound like an expert here. But is there any other position group in the game of football that needs to be more of a cohesive unit and kind of gel and be on the same page and knowing what the guy next to you is going to do and his tendencies more than the offensive line?
No, there really is not. Okay, there really is not. I mean, your quarterback and receiver would be the next closest thing, but offensive line, like, you're protecting those guys that have to throw it. So you need to be cohesive. You need to know what that guy's going to do. You need to trust that guy that's next to you. So, and that's why that's literally why I said, like, when I saw the tweet come out that they said they might rotate him, blah blah blah, I was like, there's no way Mike.
Stupid.
Yeah, no way Mike Tomlin would do something like that.
And he gave a really how should I phrase this, like how a politician would. Like, he gave a really good answer. He's like, well, it's Troy's first game, and we're in Denver, and it's September, and it's 90 degrees, and we didn't want his conditioning to be down since he's in training camp. It all sounded great, but in reality, it's still really, really dumb. And I think deep down Tomlin knows that, and that's why he kept Faltanu in the rest of the game after Broderick Jones had those 3 penalties on the one drive. Completely derailed a drive where the Steelers started from their own, 1 yard line?
Yeah.
And then they marched, literally, if they would have counted that Pickens catch, they'd have marched all the way down inside the 10-yard line.
Not to mention that series, he got him behind the sticks with a false start, and then they still converted that to a first down, and then that hole came. So it was like...
Yeah, I thought he had 2 holds.
He had the false start, and he had 2 holds.
Yeah, he had 2.
Which was like crazy. And then one thing I will say, I would watch the whole Tomlin Tuesday. He did bring in refs for all the practice this week.
Thank
so that's
the
one
Lord.
thing. That's one thing that he did well to try to get those penalties down, because both sides of the ball have had a lot of penalties. But on the side of seeing the offensive line and them knowing the way Justin moves, that is one thing I wanted to mention. The way Justin moves in the pocket and gets out of the pocket, that could cause some holds as well. So him getting out, Broderick not knowing he was rolling out to his right, that causes holds in a sense. Broderick blocked for Kenny Pickett, who didn't really roll out like that, didn't get out of the pocket as much as Justin Fields does on scrambles. So that could be something that they need to work together with. They need to know, hey, as soon as you feel that guy go into the outside, just let go of him. Justin will outrun him. It'll be all right.
Now, Jawuan, I want to pivot to you here. You have been, how do I say this? You are not a big fan of Dan Moore.
No.
You haven't been. But all the advanced analytics are saying Dan Moore is playing out of his mind right now. And this is kind of the conversation I want to get into now. With the Steelers investing 2 first-round picks in the past 2 seasons on the tackle position, and with Dan Moore playing how he's playing, what do you guys want to do? And since you've been the most vocal about Dan Moore and wanting Dan Moore out of there, what would you do? What's your opinion on what the Steelers should do?
So, well, to keep it on the O-line from last game, Broderick did. He had so many penalties on himself that we didn't even that the penalty and the allowed sack that Dan Moore had, it overshadowed what he did. So, to me, analytics, they say that Dan Moore is one of the top left tackles in the game.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy to think that, but that's what
But even watching him, he hasn't allowed a sack this year, that was his big downfall last year. I believe he let double-digit sacks last year. Am I off basis with that?
I don't know if it was quite double digits, but it was close.
I felt like he was one of the worst rated left tackles last
Pass
year.
blocking, yes.
And run blocking is completely. He's always been a really solid run
he's a
blocker.
mauler.
But
Yeah.
Broderick Jones is also a really good run blocker, and so that kind of leads to the question of would you more or less blame the coaching staff and still give Broderick Jones a chance to kind of move over to the left side eventually, or do you ride with the hot hand with Dan Moore, who's in a contract year? And he's playing like it. He's playing like he's in a contract year.
And this is where I'm at with it. Okay, guys. I think you can move Broderick to be Dan Moore's backup. He can still swing tackle. Like if one of them were to go down, he could jump in the right tackle. But I think majority like he should be practicing at left tackle. You build him up, try to develop him for next year. I don't think you re-sign Dan Moore because it's been 1 year that he's having a solid year. It's been 2 games this year that he's having a solid year. He's been consistent, but he hasn't been great. So we invested a first-round pick. We traded up to get Broderick Jones. I think you just try to build him up, get his confidence going on the left side. All right. You can also swing him if one of those goes down, like I said. But you build him up. Next year he takes over in at the left tackle position.
All right, so I'm listening to what you're saying. But here's my thing with the whole thing. I understand that you're saying that Broderick, getting ready for next year, sit behind Dan Moore. But I have thought about it, and this is my way of thinking. Dan Moore, is doing great. Now, I had my differences with Dan Moore last year, but he's actually doing great.
And let's be real. Let's be real here. Last week you did say when he was limited in practice because he didn't start the week practicing, you were like, it's the time. Go ahead and throw Broderick in. That was the tune you were singing last week.
Yeah.
And so
even though he still allowed a sack and he had a hold too, actually.
I don't think he allowed a sack. I really don't. I don't think he's allowed a sack all season. He did have that hold.
He did the sack on Justin Fields.
I from what I have read this week, I don't think it was on him. From what I have read, he is not allowed a sack.
That's
we'll have to go back and look, but
I know James Daniels did this week, but it wasn't. I don't think it was Dan Moore. From what I've seen, on Twitter and stat wise.
Okay. But nevertheless, I think Dan Moore is doing great. I'm thinking as long as he's doing great, his trade value is going to be good.
I like where you're going with this.
Now,
Yeah,
with his trade with him doing great, his trade value being good, we're looking for what? A number 2 receiver.
You are stealing my thought process, but keep going. You're rolling. Keep it rolling.
So he's doing good asset. We're looking for a number 2. Now, I'm not gonna say what number 2 I think, but he'll be with some picks in him. Like right now, if he by when's the trade deadline?
It's like I think it's week 10.
Week 10. If he's playing like this, one of the top tackles in the league, why not trade him off to get a receiver?
I think that's an excellent idea. I think it's an excellent idea for 2 reasons. Because this is my point. I don't need to go over my point because you just made it for me, which is crazy because we did not talk about that. Either way, I love that idea because I think right now Broderick Jones' confidence is going down, and they need to do something to bring it back up. I think a move like that maybe would hurt the line a little bit, but I think Broderick Jones will get his confidence up knowing that the coaching staff and the front office are looking for his best interest and knowing that they're committed to him. And not only that, you're also filling a hole in another place. And if Broderick Jones were to come in, maybe he doesn't come in and initially play as good as Dan Moore, but let's say he plays 80% to what Dan Moore is playing right now. And again, right now, 2 weeks in, Dan Moore is playing like one of the best left tackles in the league. Now, with that being said, when Broderick Jones had his 1 game starting at left tackle last year against the Ravens, he didn't allow any pressures, any sacks. He played an outstanding game. And on top of that, he was a left tackle in college. And I think this is unanimous with all Steeler fans. The coaching staff, the front office, if they have an input in it, have mismanaged this player with moving him to the right, moving him back to the left. In the offseason, they said they wanted him to play at left, but then when training camp starts, he's back at right, and then he's filling back in at left when Fautanu finally kind of gets going and kind of breaks that wall that he had when he first came in because he wasn't playing that well in practice. And then when he started playing well, they moved him back over to left. Fautanu gets hurt, he goes back to right. Like it's an A/B dance. It's back and forth, right? Like we're sitting here dancing with a first round pick that we traded up for, and he's a left tackle. He needs to be at left tackle, and if he's not playing better than Dan Moore, then guess what? He needs to sit behind Dan Moore. Flat out, bottom line. But with all that being said,
I got one rebuttal.
The trade idea would be great.
I got one rebuttal on the trade idea. So we have one other tackle on the 53-man. We trade him, we lose if Fautanu would go down or if Broderick would go down right away. Who's filling in there?
So
but you also have to think like
I think it's Cook. Is it Cook?
No, it would more than likely be Spencer Anderson. And that's the good thing about Spencer Anderson.
He's playing guard right now.
I know he is, but Isaac Siamalu is already kind of
Working
getting
his way
back into practice. We assume probably not this week. I don't think Siamalu is going to play this week, but for the Colts game, I could definitely see him being back in the mix. The thing that I've heard from a lot of Steelers beat writers and people that are close to the team, and especially guys that know what they're talking about, Spencer Anderson is a guy that has been cross-trained at all 5 positions. The coaching staff sees him as a player that can plug in at any spot that they need him in. He's been here last year, he's been here this year, and he has proven that he can be able to do that. And I feel like he's a very valuable piece as a reserve offensive lineman. I feel like he would be in the mix for that.
I get that.
So it wouldn't freak me out. It wouldn't freak me out. Then you have McCormick. If a guard goes down, from what I've heard, from especially in training camp till now, that the offensive line depth is really good. It's just all about kind of getting the starters going, and with all these new pieces, new quarterback, new receivers, a couple rookies on the offensive line. It's just all about gelling, and that's what we're kind of waiting to see, and that's what kind of is the dam that is waiting to break. So I'm not worried about getting rid of a Dan Moore because of who's behind him. I'm really, really not, especially if it helps get our first-round tackle back on track to be the future, which he was drafted to be. So to me, I think we're kind of all on the same page here that
it's like a give and take,
eventually we want to see the transition move. I don't think any of us are out on I don't think any of us are out on Broderick Jones because of what he did in preseason, what he did in Denver. I think it's all a confidence issue and a coaching mismanagement. And I think we're kind of all on the same page that eventually he kind of needs to get flooded in.
Yeah,
I agree.
So let's get into our final topic of the day. Falcons week, Kirk Cousins coming off an Achilles, wasn't doing much for us, right? Rookie Bo Nix, I told you guys last year, Jawuan made an excellent short with highlights of what I was talking about from my film breakdown of the Broncos. We absolutely dismantled a check down Charlie last week. This week is a completely different story. Jim Harbaugh is at the head of the Chargers. Finally, they got rid of Staley, who was probably the most idiotic coach in the entire NFL. And they're playing like a legit contender. I mean, the Chargers for years have always had talent and bad coaching. Now they have good coaching along with their good talent. And this is going to be by far the best team that we have seen so far this year coming in our home opener.
Well, we also got to remember that we got a gimpy Justin Herbert.
That is true.
That tackle he took was kind of nasty. And I'm surprised he's even playing this week.
Yeah. So he didn't practice early in the week.
He was limited today.
He practiced today.
So. Yeah.
And so he's limited. More than likely, they're gonna give Herbert a go. But the fun part about this matchup is that these two teams have played ultra similar. And the one difference for me, though, is the quarterback position. Like, say what you want about Fields and how much more improved he has looked and more not as reckless as he was in Chicago. You're seeing more of the positives that you saw in Chicago than the negatives. But let's be honest here. I think that there is a significant quarterback discrepancy in this matchup when we're talking about two teams that are very, very similar. I would say the Chargers right now and the Steelers both have top 5 defenses. Their receiving depth is a huge issue for both squads. More so the Chargers because they don't even have a real number 1. At least we have George Pickens. But when it comes to the quarterback position, for me, and if we're talking about matchups here, which quarterback is going to have the edge in this matchup? I'm leaning towards Herbert. I think Herbert has a top 5 talent, and I think with Harbaugh, even though the numbers haven't been there, I mean, he hasn't thrown for over 150 yards in either game, I believe.
He hasn't had to.
No, he hasn't had to.
That run game is crazy.
He is taking the offense that we saw in Michigan, that run first, they're going to pound you, and then just a couple throws a game, couple big throws that you're going to need in the game in order to end it. And you have a top 5 talent in the league at quarterback to do that. What Harbaugh has done with this defense and maximizing the talent that they have, I mean, they've had talent on this defense for years, but they've never lived up to it because of bad coaching. This defense is playing well. This offensive line is playing excellent. The run game is excellent, and their quarterback is excellent. So I'm looking at the quarterback matchup here as the big kind of breakdown and matchup for this game. I want to know your all's matchup and what we're looking at.
I have two matchups that I really am excited to see. Like you said, the quarterback matchup, especially with the teams being so similar, that's going to be key. So we need Justin to play well. But my matchup is both D lines versus both of these offensive lines. You got Mack and you have Bosa on the Chargers defensive line against our offensive line. A rookie at right tackle. I believe the Chargers have a rookie at right tackle as well, going against TJ Watt.
The number 5 overall pick.
Joel, and he's playing well. He's playing well, but he hasn't seen TJ Watt. And then another matchup I would love to see is I saw that JPJ is going to be falling. Their number 1, who isn't really a number 1 or hasn't lived up to his hype
Quincy,
yet. Quentin Johnson.
Quentin Johnson.
So JPJ falling Quentin Johnson. If he can lock that down, I don't know who they have behind him. Honestly, I don't know many names.
Well, they've had Joshua Palmer for years. Ladd McConkey had a really good first game against the Raiders.
He's a slot guy, though. So, I mean, that might be another matchup that I didn't even think about. Ladd McConkey versus our slot corner, Beanie Bishop.
I think that's a huge
mismatch, but also I think the rest of our secondary plays well into Beanie Bishop because you haven't really heard much about Beanie Bishop getting out of place besides that Pitts touchdown. But those are the matchups I have. O-line versus D-line and JPJ versus Quentin Johnson.
Jawuan.
Yeah, you kind of hit it on the nail, especially on the DNs versus their O-line. Something else I'm looking at is just the battle of running back duos.
That's another one.
Yeah, that is something I'm really looking at.
They stole Baltimore's running back duo from last year.
Yeah, they have Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins.
J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah, he's
a Steeler killer, too.
I brought this up for a reason, okay? Because, I like to pull up my tabs and information. I brought up the last time J.K. Dobbins played in Pittsburgh. It wasn't pretty for us. 15 carries for 120 yards, 8 yards a carry.
That was the game.
8 yards a carry.
That was the game that he just sealed the. It was
he took it over.
He took it over at the end and just had 4 first downs in a row.
I mean, that was the game that we came in.
Who was our quarterback that game?
They came in with Tyler Huntley. Huntley got hurt. And Kenny Pickett got hurt with a concussion because Roquan Smith, took him to the ground and hit his head on the. I think was it the first drive or second drive? Doesn't matter. Anthony Brown, because of J.K. Dobbins, Anthony Brown came in and finished the game and beat us because of how dominant J.K. Dobbins is. And when J.K. Dobbins is healthy, I mean, what he said, I mean, he was ripping off 13 and a half yards a clip against the Raiders in week 1. Last week,
he balled.
Not much difference. I mean, he had over 100 yards rushing again against the Panthers. Didn't get it. Panthers suck, but the Raiders defense is not no slouch. And you talk about Joe Alt and how he hasn't seen TJ Watt. He did pretty well against Max Crosby. And again, I'm not saying Max Crosby's TJ Watt, but I mean, for a rookie in his first game, every single solo matchup that you have, and Max Crosby has zero
But
pressures. That's impressive.
This
dude.
is one thing I have to say though. Do the Raiders really have that guy opposite of him, or that interior guy like Cam Hayward?
No, they don't.
And that'd be another matchup.
They got the guy Wilkins from the Dolphins that they paid a bunch of money to.
Is he? I haven't really.
But again,
heard much
he's
about him,
no Cam Hayward. He's and I get that.
Run stuff.
I get that. Yeah. But again, the Chargers' offensive line. I mean, they are playing.
Who are their interior guys?
Significant. I know they have. Zion Johnson. They drafted him a couple years ago. Let's see here. They have Bradley Bozeman at center because they released their center coming into the year, and then Trey Pipkins III. I've never heard of him, but I've heard of Bozeman, and I definitely know Zion Johnson because he got drafted there just only a couple years ago. And
Cam Hayward and
pretty well.
Keanu Benton are going to be huge in this game, and Lario. Like I feel like that's going to be huge. Like because I don't think they're going to try to attack the outside. Like they've been seeing what T.J. Watt has been doing against the run. Getting upfield, getting TFLs. They're going to try to attack the middle, and that interior offensive line and interior defensive line are going to be another key matchup. Like I said, O-line versus D-line.
That's actually something that we didn't talk about. Something that I didn't like about the last game, the middle of the field was wide open. Wide open. And that's something that I mean, Patrick Queen, I think it was the schemes that we was running. But, like, the middle was wide open, especially in the second half.
I think they genuinely were just letting him just check it down.
We just don't need to do that.
I mean, with what I saw in Denver, I mean, they were just letting him check it down, stop him before they hit the sticks, and I think that
a lot of people. I have seen a lot of Steelers fans being down on Patrick Queen. You gotta think about like who's in front of him now. Like he hasn't had to make many plays. Like the splash plays are going to come, but he missed 2 tackles in Atlanta, and I'll give anybody that. He needs to make those tackles, but again, the defensive line. This is some play that we haven't had, I would say, probably in about 5 years. Defensive line is playing really, really well, and they're healthy. Cam Hayward, like I said, hasn't missed a step. He's been dominating.
He's gonna keep on saying that.
That's on man.
That new contract,
am I
bro.
lying,
No, you're not.
Am I lying?
I'm telling you,
Cam Hayward's balling out.
Without Cam Hayward, our rush defense is not the same.
All right, that's all fine and dandy. With that being said, it's time for game predictions. All right, this game is going to be the toughest game that this Steelers team has faced all season long so far. I think this might be the toughest team they play before the bye. Honestly, with the schedule we have now and what we've seen from these teams, I mean, this could legitimately be a really tough team to beat. They might be better than the Cowboys. They might be better than the Jets. So it's going to be a tough Chargers team. So, Jawuan, I'm going to kick it off with you. Your game predictions. Do the Steelers go 3-0 to start the year?
Well, with y'all doubting my boy Justin Fields, he will show y'all why he's the man.
Why he's QB1.
Why he's QB1, and he's the man in Pittsburgh. I predict that the Steelers will win. It's going to be a close one. So I have it. Yeah, actually. I have it 18-14.
18-14.
Is Justin Fields showing he's the man with that score?
Yes.
I mean, it is a top 3 defense, top 5 defense.
So, I mean, I don't know how much you want to expect from him.
All right,
okay.
You want me next?
Go ahead, Trey.
All right, guys. I think oh, man, I've been going back and forth on this one. Junnie got in my head with saying the quarterback play because the teams are so similar, great defenses. It's going to come down to quarterback play. I think this is going to come down to you as Steelers fans at a home opener. It's going to be loud. Chargers aren't used to even having many fans at their stadium. Like, I feel like they don't have many supporters. So I think it comes down to you guys. All right. The Pittsburgh Steelers are going to pull out a tight one. The offense is going to look better. Arthur Smith's going to open up the offense. Justin Fields might win his job this week. All right. And I'm going to give the prediction of, oh, man, I can't believe I'm saying this. We're going to score over 20 points. We're going to go against the top 5 defense, 24-20.
The dam has been broken.
The Steelers.
You're picking the Steelers 24-20.
Yep.
Man.
The dam's getting broken.
Man, listen.
Break that shit down, Arthur.
Dude. That would be awesome. That would be awesome.
Here we go, Junnie. I know what you got.
Yeah, I bet you do.
It's coming.
The Steelers haven't won a home opener since the 2020 season. They have lost all their home openers. In 21, they lost the Raiders. In 22, they lost the Patriots. And last year, they lost that first game to the 49ers.
This ain't your grandfather's Steelers, buddy.
I know it. It sure ain't. Because grandfather was there in the 70s. He saw it all. With that being said, I think these two teams are very similar. I think this is going to be a rock fight. And if you like defense, you're going to love this game. Because I actually do like defensive games. But the Chargers have shown that they can put up points and play defensive ball the way that the Steelers have. And because of what I've seen from the Chargers so far and the way that they have put up points, I am going Chargers win. Chargers win 20-16.
Have they played a defense like ours yet?
No, I bet there's not many defenses like ours.
Scoring 20, I think.
But with that being said, I also don't think we've played a team that has a running game like this team does. I don't think we've played a team that has the level of tackle play that this team does. I don't think we've played a team that has the defense. I don't think that we've played a team that Sean Payton's a good coach, but Denver absolutely sucks. So how much can he actually do? Jim Harbaugh's a good coach. My entire childhood, the 49ers sucked. And Jim Harbaugh comes in and they're in the NFC Championship every year. Like he is a good coach. He wins wherever he goes. And he came in and picked up a top 5 quarterback, and he has elevated the talent on this Chargers defense to finally reach the potential that they can. I think the Steelers lose, but with that being said, I do think that this kind of helps them going forward to kind of figure some things out. And again, I'm saying that right now, not the Cowboys, not the Jets, not anybody. The Chargers are the best team this team will play until the bye week. So I am going Chargers. I think it's going to be competitive. I think Justin Fields still plays a solid game. He might have one turnover, maybe. But again, I don't think the dam breaks yet for the Steelers. I think that this is the game that kind of says, hey, it's time to quit playing around. It's time to quit being funny. It's time to let the offense loose a little bit. And I think this is going to be the game that kind of pushes them to do that because they don't have enough offense to get it done.
Guys, I think Vegas agrees with us too, because I just looked at the line. The spread is 1.5 for the Steelers. And the reason is probably because it's a home game. So they think this matchup is just as evenly as we think it is. So I think, man, I don't know. This game is going to be let me see what the over-under is.
The betting number, or I'm sorry, the money is going towards the Chargers. We opened up as 3-point favorites, and it has now moved to leaning towards them minus 1.5. So the people betting are moving towards the Chargers. Again, people betting last week are moving towards Denver. I watched the film on Denver. I didn't believe in that. I've watched the Chargers, and I'm telling you right now that this is a really, really good team. It's not just names aimlessly out there anymore. This is a real team with a real coach, with real talent, and a real quarterback.
What would you guess the over-under is?
31.
36.5.
35.5. Good guess. Now those lines are crazy.
Let me just say this, because I just pulled it up. So you're saying that it's going to be down to quarterback play, right?
Mm-hmm.
And before you said that he doesn't have receivers.
Yeah.
So, looking at last game, they won 26-3, but the Quentin Johnson just had 51 yards.
He had 2 touchdowns though.
He had 51 yards.
He had 2 touchdowns.
Mind you.
And again, this is you not watching the game.
You're right.
You look at the box score. How many yards did George Pickens have? But we watched the game, and we know. So that's my point. That is my point. And to be honest with you, this is what I value. I value an offensive line that protects an elite quarterback rather than a quarterback that has elite weapons. And I think that a quarterback can make their weapons look a lot better than they are when they have the time and they have the talent to do so, and Herbert does. And so I just think that their strength matches up with our strength, especially TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith going up against Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt. I think that could limit them a little bit.
I hear what you're saying, but let's just get to still a week. That's what the people waiting on.
We'll see. We'll see what happens on the field. I think it's going to be a tough matchup. But either way, steal of the week, Trey. What's your steal of the week?
Man, I'm liking the Lions. I think this matchup, they have it pretty on key in Vegas.
It's almost an even.
Yeah, it's
getting close to that.
Money lines minus 122 for the Steelers and plus 104 for the Chargers. And like I said, the spread's 1.5. So with that being said, I'm not touching any of that. I'm not touching any of that at all. Not the over under. I'm gonna go with player props. I'm gonna go with player props here. I'll give you 3. Okay, I have J.K. Dobbins. His over under on rushing is, I had it right here. His over under on rushing is 53. I'm smashing the over. They're gonna pound the rock. He might not have much over 53 because our run defense is pretty good, but I think he hits over 53. So I'm taking that as one. Najee Harris is also 53.5. Ooh. I'm taking that as well, and I'm going to go with my touchdown prediction of the week, my anytime touchdown score. I'm going to go with Pat Freiermuth. And those odds are 440. Plus
really?
440.
I actually looked at those. I actually looked at Pat's because I picked Pat to score last week. I'm not going to pick him this week, but I think it was at 430, so it's gone down. It's gone down since then. What about you, Jawuan? What's your steal of the week?
Okay, so I think this week is finally the time that George Pickens gets his time. So I got him getting over 60 yards passing, receiving. And I also have bold prediction for still of the week. Darnell Washington getting another touchdown.
Whoa.
The reason I took Pat Freiermuth is
back.
because they might be focusing on him. They might do the same thing. They're with the Pat instead. That's why I picked Pat. That's why I picked Pat.
I like where your head's at. I think that's pretty logical what you just laid out there. But I'm going to go off the beaten path just a little bit. I like what I saw from this guy. He didn't do much in the Atlanta game, but he showed a little bit more this game. Give me anytime touchdown for Jaylen freaking Warren. I think this is another Jaylen Warren week.
Odds.
I don't know. He just looked like he just looked like he had his quickness, his burst back. You didn't see that much in Atlanta, still coming off that hamstring injury. I just think, Denver had a lot of speed on their defense. They're not very talented. The Chargers are more physical. And so when you got a physical D-line, I'm actually going to go on under on the yards for Najee Harris. I think that this is one of those games that early in the year where Najee Harris just doesn't look that good. I know he's looked decent so far. I think the Chargers really kind of hone him in, and the Steelers have a Jaylen Warren kind of game.
I can see it.
I think Jaylen Warren is going to have a good game, and you probably have it up quicker than I do. What's George Pickens over under? Because if there's one weakness on this Chargers defense, it's cornerback. I am very familiar with Christian Fulton with my time covering the Tennessee Titans. 49.5. Smash the over. Smash that over. And I'm going to go even further. I'm going to go further than you. George Pickens has over 100 yards this game.
I like it.
George Pickens has over 100 yards this game. I think that this secondary for the Chargers is physical. I don't think they're fast. I think there's going to be at least one, maybe two deep balls to George Pickens. And I also think the middle of the field is going to be a lot more utilized. And kind of like how we saw on that adjustment with Fields throwing that slant on that key third down in the first half to George Pickens, I think we're going to see a little bit more of the interior of the field being used. And George Pickens, the way he's been separating, I like it. I think this is going to be his breakout game over 100 yards.
Since you're saying that, I got one more for you.
Okay. Throw it in.
Trey, I want you to look up Van Jefferson's over-under.
Oh, no.
Oh,
Don't do
no,
that.
don't do that.
Don't do it.
Watch.
I'll
Don't do it.
look, but your odds for Jalen Warren anytime is plus 340, and yours, Mr. Jawuan, is plus 1,400 for another Darnell Washington. All right, so you want to see receiving for Van Jefferson?
For Van Jefferson.
Hold on. Before you do this, let me guess.
Let's guess what it is.
Over under 10.5 yards.
Close.
I'll say over-under 12.5, 13.
16.5. They're giving him too much credit.
Hey, no way.
And I'm here to say
He's hitting over?
he's hitting over. And
Okay.
he'll get over.
I sure as hell hope so.
He'll get over 25 yards.
Oh.
Okay. All right. I like it. Some bold,
like
some
it.
bold
Because
predictions.
it's gonna be a time like he had last game where it's gonna be a deep ball.
And he's going to catch it
And
this
he's
time.
gonna- I mean,
Not get
he
PI. I
got-
know, OPI.
It's PI.
Or DPI, yeah. I got you.
Either way.
They sleeping on you, Van Jefferson. They sleeping on you. I'm not sleeping. I know you.
Hey, Van Jefferson. I'm
Do it
willing
for
to
me.
wake up anytime you want to ring the alarm, baby. you ring and wake me up, please. But hey, that is all the time that we have today. Guys, again, third video on YouTube. Like, subscribe, share. We're on Twitter. Jawuan's plugging these clips out on a weekly basis. We're going to keep doing that for all of our episodes. So look out for us on Instagram, on Twitter. I think we even made a Threads. I'm not even on Threads, but guess what? Stealing with the Boys podcast is on Threads. We're making
Threads,
TikToks,
TikToks.
all of it. Look up Stealing with the Boys. We're going to keep doing this. We're going to keep building off of it. Brand new studio here. Didn't even shout it out. We're at Trey's place now. Trey has a little bit more space, so we moved here. Got the fancy helmets out here, signed by Hines Ward, James Harrison, some of my favorites of our time as children. But either way, great episode today, guys. Big game against the Chargers coming in for the home opener. But for here, Stealing with the Boys podcast, we are out.
Van Jefferson, you're gonna get the over. I'm with you.
Let's go. Home opener, baby. Let's go.
Let's go.